Got it. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, so today was a day of trying to identify exactly where we stand, what we could see on the ground. It was good because they were, able to get up in the air and see some of it. They were able to get and see things by land as well as by boat in some cases. There's still some areas we still can't get into, but I think we can give you a little bit more updated information today. But I do want to start with John Quagliarello and let him, also known as Rockstar John, and let him give you what I believe will be our final weather report.
Thank you, Governor. Well, as you know, Matthew made landfall earlier this morning, just southeast of McClellanville. The good news is it is now finally pulling away from the Myrtle Beach area to the northeast, and we're starting to see improving conditions. The one thing I do want to point out, though, even though the rain is starting to taper off, we're still seeing some strong winds in the back end of the storm in the Grand Strand area. And in fact, within the past half hour or so, there was a 74-mile-an-hour gust at the Myrtle Beach airport. So even though the rain's ending, the wind threat is still there, and that's probably going to last through the evening if you're in the Grand Strand. So just be careful if you're still out there. It might look like it's improving, but it's still windy. In terms of what happened today, all we know, we haven't been able to see any high water marks to go out and survey the storm surge. However, we do know we set a new record stage at Fort Pulaski at one of the tide gauges just across the Savannah River. And Charleston Harbor also tied for the third highest level at the tide gauge and the highest since Hurricane Hugo. In terms of rainfall, we've seen quite a bit of it since last night. In fact, we've seen reports as high as 10 to 15 inches across the Low Country, the PD, and the Grand Strand, with numerous reports of flash flooding. And even farther west into the Midlands, as much as 5 to 9 inches of rain fell. And in terms of winds, again, we've had still the highest wind report we've received in the state is 88 miles per hour at Hilton Head, 82 miles an hour at Beaufort, that's 74 miles an hour at the Myrtle Beach Airport, and 71 at Georgetown, and 69 at the Charleston Airport. So we did have quite a few reports of sustained tropical storm force winds with some gusts to hurricane force during Matthew. That's all I have. Thank you.
And I want to personally thank John for working with us. He didn't ask to be in front of the TVs, but I thought it was always very good for him to give you that report directly so that you could know exactly what was happening. So thank you very much for your service in getting us through this. Okay, so bottom line, what we have seen is lots of trees down, lots of power lines down, a lot of roads that are not passable. We're not seeing as much structural damage, which is the good news of that, as much as we're seeing flooding and just debris that we're going to have to be taken care of. So we are seeing some roads that are being washed out. We do expect to rescind some of the portions of the evacuation tomorrow. We will get you that information, but basically how that's going to work is it's really between the local leaders and law enforcement in that area, along with DOT, on whether it's safe to go and enter that area. So we will be heavily relying on the local counties to give us the information on when and where we need to rescind and what time to do that. We are happy to say that the ports will resume operations at 10 a.m. on Monday, and so we're excited about that. There was significant damage and road closures in Jasper, Beaufort, Colleton, Allendale, Bamberg, and the Holly Hill area. But to give you more details, because there's a lot to say about the road situations, I'm going to turn it over to Secretary Hall.
Thank you, Governor. I'm proud to report that most of our interstates in South Carolina are currently open. I-20, I-26, and I-526 are all open and currently available to utilize. Our crews have been out, along with first responders and National Guard, assisting in clearing any downed trees off of Interstate 95 that we've had. And Interstate 95 has been cleared of trees. However, there are two sections of Interstate 95 that are currently flooded and unavailable. The first 15 miles of I-95 coming in from North Carolina are currently closed due to flood. Of course, we'll wait until that water recedes and reopen that section as soon as possible. And then I-95 southbound in the Ridgeland area is also closed due to flooding on the roadway. And of course, we'll wait until the water recedes in that area. We have a significant number of trees down across our roadways, as the Governor mentioned. We have a plan for clearing those roadways in order to get access back into the areas based on priority routes, and we will follow something similar to our evacuation plan. So look at the routes identified there, and that will help identify which routes we're going to clear in priority order to get folks back into the areas as quickly as we can based on local needs. We'll also be coordinating with schools and some of the other areas as well to help get the schools back and operational as quickly as we can. The barrier islands are currently inaccessible with regards to road access. And for the Beaufort and Jasper area, our plan for reentry as far as road clearing operations is we will begin at I-95 and clear US 278, US 17, US 21, and SC 170, moving from I-95 out towards the coastline will be our operations mode for that. The Ravenel Bridge is currently closed right now so that we can complete an engineering assessment of the structure in order to return it to service. That concludes my information on the roads.
Thank you, Secretary Hall. And, I will tell you, a lot of people are on the roads right now trying to keep you safe. And, we're getting ready to see a lot of DOT crews and maintenance workers get out there in harm's way. We always see lots of law enforcement from all of our law enforcement agencies that help, as well as the National Guard. And so to give an update of what the search and rescue is looking like and what the any other details about reentry, I'm going to have Chief Keel step up and give an update. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Governor. We currently have 761 state law enforcement personnel and 278 National Guardsmen assigned to security missions. We're presently conducting a number of security missions within the affected areas, both by patrolling neighborhoods that have been evacuated and also those areas that are without power. I've been in contact today with a number of all the sheriffs along the coastal region, along with the chiefs. Again, as both the governor and Secretary Hall have stated, it seems like the trees down and water is our biggest obstacle to getting back into these areas. I would caution everyone who is making an attempt to get back into the areas to realize that the roads may be closed in the areas that they're trying to get into. We still have curfews up tonight in Berkeley, Beaufort, Dorchester, Colleton, Williamsburg, Jasper County, Charleston County, the city of Charleston, and Mount Pleasant. Again, we will continue to monitor these areas and provide security to our sheriffs and chiefs upon their request.
Thank you, Chief. And I would just remind everybody that if you see any of our first responders, law enforcement, utility linemen, DOT crew members, or National Guard, please thank them, because they have left their families and they have possibly left damaged homes themselves just to make sure they take care of everybody else. The rivers are now going to be an issue. We are going to start really looking at the rivers, the Waccamaw, the Black, Edisto, Lynches, and PD. We're keeping our eyes on. DNR agents have surveyed them by land, but we'll be starting to survey them by water. The ones that we are concerned about right now are the Waccamaw, Lynches, Black, and PD, because it looks like they will crest above 3 to 5 feet starting next week. So that's going to be an ongoing issue that we're going to look at, and that takes us back to kind of flood conversations that we had last year. So we'll continue to do that as well. We do have 77 shelters that are still open with 6,500 residents currently in them. We have 8 special needs shelters that are open. The last reported outages number, do you have it? Because it goes up like constantly, is 833,627 customers are without power. To take you back to the winter storm where we had the least, or we thought we had the most, that was 350,000. So that's what you're looking at with power outages, 833,627. I can tell you all of the utilities and the co-ops are doing everything they can to get into the areas when they're told it's safe to try and get everybody back restored, but that's where we stand as of now in terms of the outages. Majority of the outages are in Beaufort, Berkeley, Charleston, Dorchester, and Horry counties. We had 3 breached dams that were reported today, 2 in Dillon and 1 in Lexington. The Army Corps is going to go into the field and assist us in looking at 83 dams that we want to lay eyes on. We still have sporadic cell service throughout the state, so you will see that, but I think we're working on trying to get that back together. a few things is we really want to encourage at this point, our county leaders and our school leaders come together and decide when schools should reopen. We do have some conversations going between the counties and the superintendents to make sure that it's consistent on when they decide to reopen or whether they decide to stay closed. That along will go with what the information that they have in terms of roads. So we would like to see them work together, and so far we expect that to happen. A few warnings now is now there's a lot of storm water and flood water that you're going to see out there. Don't let your kids play in it. Don't walk in it. Be very careful. That's where we see the bacteria. That's where we could possibly see chemicals. And so it's very, very important to stay out of any of the storm water as you come across it, because it could be dangerous. If you do see the water, first of all, don't walk in it, but we also don't want you to drive on any roads that have water. We don't want you to drive over them, because they still could have power lines underneath them. They could have actually broken sections of road underneath them. They could have trees that have come down underneath them. You don't know what you're going over. So if you see water in the road, you need to turn around and move back. It can be extremely dangerous. That again is where we see a lot of injuries that come out of situations like this, is when people attempt to drive through water, and that's something we don't want to see you do. And then the last warning that we want to give is about generators. So a lot of people are going to continue to be without power for a little bit. Do not put your generators in your garage, because you will see that that is a huge risk in terms of carbon monoxide poisoning. So be very cautious about how you use your generators. There are facts that you can get off of our labor license and regulation website. If you want to know more about generator safety, then we ask you to do that. Having said that, I can tell you that the team behind me and everybody on the ground has worked incredibly hard to get as much information to you as possible. Because this storm won't leave until closer to midnight tonight, there's still a lot that we don't know, but I think at least tomorrow we will be able to actually have eyes on the ground everywhere, be able to really access all the places that we need to get to and find out what that damage is. So we will have a report back tomorrow, not in the morning, but probably more in the afternoon, so that we have more information to give to you. So with that, I will open it up for any questions that you might have.
Governor, on the cybersecurity issue that you mentioned this morning, with all this going on, how did we find out about that?
You know, I think the calls started to come in. I think, you know, these are things that happen, and that's the one thing about having everybody sitting at the table together as we're going through these. I think they started to receive some calls that this was happening, and what they saw was it was a hacker that was trying to get into what was normal emails. And so it was just precautionary that we make sure we get that word out.
Are there certain areas of the state where it's been more prevalent, or everywhere?
I'll ask the general if he's got some information on that.
It is throughout the state. I mean, the internet's everywhere, so wherever that is. And we picked a lot of that up through the cyber efforts that the governor has started with our cyber teams.
Is SLED looking into that? Is there?
The cyber team actually works, it's a whole conglomerate of people that came together that are working on cybersecurity across South Carolina. It's actually something that was stepped up really through the National Guard and some of our agencies to say, okay, what else can we be doing to be on top of that? So, and SLED is the lead agency on that one.
Specifically, which dams were breached?
Okay, sorry.
So we have two confirmed, and one is the Little PD State Park in Dillon County. That's a C3 dam, so low hazard dam. We have another confirmed, which is an unregulated dam above Durham Road in Lexington County. We have one that's reported, but because of access issues, DHEC has not yet been able to confirm, but the report did come from County EMD in Dillon County, and that is Squire Lake in Dillon. And that, I would note, is a C2 dam, so that's a significant hazard dam that was subject to a repair order from last year's flood.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Secretary Hall, on the roads, do we have enough people to take care of all these needs, or will we use the interstate agreement and have people come in maybe from other states?
We have plenty of resources already lined up, whether it's our internal forces, working with the county governments, and the Guard is also offered some assistance.
There's a lot of cooperation on that. I mean, DOT has a lot of maintenance workers already, but just the cooperation between law enforcement, National Guard, and those maintenance crews, you'll see a lot of that working together.
Governor, right now, what's the tally on deaths, any tally on injuries?
Right now, this is ongoing. We're going to continue to see. My hope and prayer is always that there's none. But I think that as they're going through search and rescue, that's when we start to find things out. And so we have no reported at this time. Okay, well, we will report back tomorrow. What I will tell you is what I asked of this morning. Please stay home tonight. There's no reason for you to try and get into your area because you won't be able to get in. What we are going to do is this entire team is committed to getting you in as fast as possible to get businesses up and running, kids back at school, and everybody getting back to what is going to be their daily lives. But we are dealing with flooding. We are dealing with trees down. We are going to deal with debris removal. And so we ask for your patience, and we ask for you to remember that we are blessed because what really was an unusual storm that was coming at us at all directions. We were able to do the best that we could to keep everybody safe, and so keep in mind that lives are what's most important. While it's inconvenient, we will try and get there, but we're very happy right now that we can say that so far we're hoping everybody's still safe. So thank you very much. Y'all have a good night. Oh. That's great news on that. All right, thank you. Have a good night. Yes.
The bridge is opening now, or what time will it open?
We'll stage it and get it reopened as quickly as possible.